Tonight, we're dealing with something that I am calling the validation viper. The validation viper. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This is all about people pleasing, the pain of people pleasing. Now, I like ouches and amens. I'll take any type of comments if you are able to comment. Again, if you're listening from Clubhouse, you can hit me up in Instagram. But what I do believe is that when we get to this place and when we are in an atmosphere where we understand what's happening around us, we can also understand what is now happening inside of us. And so that's what we're going to deal with tonight. I see the ouches already. This is what we're going to deal with tonight. We're going to deal with the validation viper because a lot of the times what happens for us is that we get to a place where we are we don't understand sometimes that we are going through things. We don't understand sometimes that we are dealing with things. And so I really want to make sure that we are able to see what's happening around us. So first of all, in order to understand why I decided to call this the viper, the validation viper, is because a lot of us, we deal with needing and wanting validation. We want people to validate certain things about us. That in itself couldn't be a problem, except for the fact that a lot of the times what we don't understand is that there is a difference between validation and affirmation. And if you are typing or taking notes, I want you to make a note that there is a difference between validation and affirmation. A lot of the times we're seeking validation when we should be moving towards affirmation. So here's what happens with, thank you. I'm trying to give good topics that's really going to get us some insight and wisdom. A lot of the times what happens with us is we want to be validated. That means we are putting the responsibility on somebody else to let us know that we have value. Validation is connected to a value attribution. We want people to attribute value. We want someone else to look at us and say, you have value, you have worth. When we put something out there, we want to look their way to see if they're going to give us a nod of approval, if they're going to say, yes, whatever you said, your sound was substantiated, your words had some worth to them, there was some value in your voice. We're looking for someone else externally to say to us that you are who you are is valid, what you do is valid, and we have to be very careful that we understand the difference between validation and affirmation, because value says I have to, an external person has to be the person to attribute this value. Without it, you are nothing, you have nothing. And so when we think about the constant need or the unhealthy need for validation, because again, there is a difference between validation and affirmation. We're saying, I need you to tell me if this is worth something. Think about when you think about jewelry and you're taking it, you're saying, I don't know if this is something that has value or not. So you take the jewelry to someone who can look at it and say, I will tell you whether or not this piece of jewelry or this piece of junk that you found in your granddaddy's shed, I'll tell you, I'll look at it and I will ascertain whether or not there's any value to this. Without me telling you this, you can assume that it's junk. See, we don't like the real, the raw, and the relevant, but this is what happens when we are constantly seeking validation. We're saying, I'm going to assume I don't have value, I don't have worth, I don't have any weight. I'm going to assume that I'm just out here winging it until someone else comes and lets me know that there is value associated with me, that there is some worth associated with me. So we have to be it's very tricky. We have to make sure that we can discern the difference. Somebody should type that in the comments, discern the difference. We've got to make sure that we can discern the difference between affirmation and validation. So there's a validation viper, and I want to make sure that we're aware of what it is and how it works, and if we've been stung by it, if we've been poisoned by it. So in validation, again, we're saying, I don't see that I have any worth. If you say I do, then I do. And then not only do you have to tell me I have value, then tell me how much value I have, but I need to discern the difference. So now affirmation says, I already understand who I am. I already understand what I hear, but let me know if you're in agreement with that thing. This is how two can walk together unless they agree. So when I affirm you, I say, hey, I affirm I agree with what it is that you're doing. I agree with the direction that you're taking. I agree with what you just put out there. There is a difference. And so a lot of the times when we're not careful, when we don't really understand and are aware of how to discern the difference, we will be out here seeking validation from vultures. Uh-oh, somebody's going to hear me tonight. Since we're all in the animal kingdom and I'm going to talk about vipers, let's just deal with the fact that a lot of the times we're seeking validation from vultures. I did a study on vultures one time, and it said that vultures, there's a difference. See, we think that birds are just birds, but there is a difference between birds of prey and birds, right? And so there are birds who have vocal cords that make them able to sing. They're able to make really melodic sounds, but vultures don't have the capacity to make anything that even resembles music or song. They can only clack and click and make very rude noises. So sometimes we're seeking music, we're seeking something melodic, we're seeking a sweet sound from something that doesn't have the capacity. Listen, I'm not even trying to go there, to give us what it is that we need. And so we have to make sure that we're able to discern the difference between validation and affirmation, and not be seeking validation from vultures, things, people, circumstances that don't even have the capacity to give us a song and a sound of praise, to even say to us what it is, give us the approval that we need. And so again, because I really want to make sure that I'm setting this atmosphere, and thank you all for joining. Make sure you ping somebody in, make sure you tag somebody, share this, because I'm all the way live tonight, and this is going to be off the chain. If you have ever dealt with people pleasing, and if you know someone who's been dealing with or is dealing with people pleasing, get them in this room, because it's going to be real, raw, and relevant. So now that we're understanding the difference between validation and affirmation, we're getting very clear about the fact that if I need validating, I need you to tell me that I have value, and then I need you to tell me how much value I have. Rather than affirmation, I understand who I am. I might not have everything worked out, but I understand who I am. I just want to know whether or not you agree. Are we on the same page as this? And so as we're dealing with this, let me help you, because we need to understand that vipers are venomous. Vipers can come to us and make us vulnerable. Man, I'm in the vein tonight. Vipers, we need to make sure that we can discern the difference. We need to make sure that we're doing this external evaluation and we're looking around. What's around us? Who's around us? What type of things do I have in my emotional atmosphere, my spiritual atmosphere? I need to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening even in my thought process. And so let's deal for a moment with vipers, because a lot of the time, see, certain people grew up around certain things, but I don't know about you. I didn't grow up around snakes. Let me just say how I feel it. I did not grow up around snakes. So in the way I grew up, if I walk outside and come out on my porch, I don't expect to see a snake. This is going to help somebody. I need y'all to share and ping this. I don't expect to see a snake. I have no snake anticipation. I'm not looking around and expecting that they're going to be hiding in the bushes or they're going to be lying across my lawn. No, I don't have an expectation. And so what happens if you are in close proximity to snakes? Some of the times it means that either they're hiding in plain sight, or you need to, and this is it might need to breathe and take this in, but you might need to purge your perception. Whoo. All right, let me just say this again for y'all in the back. Sometimes if you are in a place where you're not able to sense that you are sitting next to a snake, or there's something venomous in your atmosphere, in your environment, then perhaps you're going to have to purge your perspective and your perception. Perhaps there's something faulty in your filter. Perhaps there has to be something different that happens. There's something in your sight. There might be some blindness, some type of blind spot that might be happening that's causing you not to be able to see clearly. And so we get to places where we are sabotaged by snakes. We get to places where we've been victimized by vipers. We don't even understand it, because sometimes we've normalized things that y'all already know. Those of you all that follow me know that I say all of the time that just because you normalized it doesn't mean it's normal. Just because you say, I'm used to snakes. No, Just because you've normalized it, because see, snakes don't even run like that. They don't even lay around outside where you can see them. And so just because you've normalized it doesn't mean it's normal. Be very weary and wary of people that you're hearing. I'm used to snakes. They're all around me all the time. Listen, I need you to really purge your perception, because something in that is not adding up. And we have to be very careful that we understand the characteristics of our thoughts. Man, listen, hear me when I say this, because again, we're so busy a lot of the times discerning people and situations, but I need you to understand that you need to discern the characteristics of your thought. What type of characteristic does this thought have? Because how am I going to rightly divide the word of truth? How am I going to know if this thought is self-sabotaging it, or if this thought is fear, or if this thought is motivation? I need to understand. Here's a prime example. I often teach that there is a difference between the emotion of fear and the spirit of fear, right? So the emotion of fear is an assistant. It comes to allow us to know when something might be potentially hazardous or not safe for us. But the spirit of fear is an assassin. It comes to kill, steal, and destroy our assignment. And so if you're not in a place where you're able to discern the characteristics of your thought, you could be entertaining something that's venomous. If I'm helping y'all, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, can you put a number 1 in the comment section? Again, if you're on Clubhouse, you can take screenshots, you can put notes up, you can get inside of Instagram and make sure that you put something in the comments, because I really want to make sure that you all are able to hear this. As a matter of fact, on Clubhouse, if you are able or getting help, you can hit the raise hand button just to let me know that I'm talking to you. It's not to pull you up on the platform, but you can just let me know that I'm talking to you. But listen, this is how we get free. This is how we take it to the next level. We have to make sure that we're able to look at the characteristics of our thought. What type of thought? Where is this thought coming from? I need to understand where is the birthplace? Where is the destination? Where did it begin? How I need to understand, because we think just because a thought comes into our minds, we're supposed to entertain it. But I don't have to, just like I don't have to entertain everybody that knocks on my door. I don't have to entertain every thought that comes in my mind. We've got to be able to make a discernment and make sure that we're able to hear and see clearly. I'm glad I'm talking to y'all today. I see you guys in the comment section. And so as we discern our thoughts, as we discern our emotions, as we discern the people and things in our environment, this is the way that we're able to see what's going on. So let's deal for a second with the viper. I want to give you some potent characteristics about the viper, and then I want to talk about why the validation is embedded into this viper. Now, again, hit the share button if you are enjoying this, and if you want somebody else to get in on it, because it's getting real good real fast, right? So let's deal with viper characteristics, because this is going to really help us. First of all, understand that vipers are a large family of snakes. I need us to understand, because a lot of the times we're not protecting ourselves because we believe that we're not in a lot of danger. We don't protect our thoughts. We don't protect our emotional capacity. We don't protect certain things because a lot of the times we don't understand that there is a real danger. But there's a real danger out there in this jungle called life. And so first of all, we need to understand that vipers, when we think about the viper, the validation viper, this viper in the natural has certain characteristics that we need to be aware of. So number one, the vipers, they are a large family of snake. That means that it's not just a few of them. It's quite a few of them. They can take different forms. They can be in different facets. Understand that vipers are a large family, meaning that they all go together. Listen, it might not be a snake. A viper. It could be a cobra, but you need to understand that if it's a snake, they're all in the same family. See, here's what happens when we begin to have wayward thoughts. That's why I said, make sure that you can discern the characteristics of your thoughts. If it smells like a snake, if it makes a hissing sound like a snake, if it's scooting around on the ground and sliding like a snake, I better understand that it came from the snake family. If it's a lizard, it's too close to a snake for me. I don't know if I'm helping anybody tonight, but even if it's a lizard, it's just a little too close to the snake family for me. And so a lot of the times we'll discern things that we see like-minded characteristics. We can't even discern and differentiate our thoughts. We're saying, well, I think I'm just sad. I think I'm just feeling bad. And we're not even understand, hey, but that's in the snake family of depression. I need to be able to discern the difference. If they're in the same family, they're going to share some of the same characteristics. And so as I began to think about the validation viper, I need to be aware of what type of characteristics that this snake has, because I recognize it's part of a family. I'm giving it to y'all real raw and relevant tonight. Next thing I need you to understand about a viper, because we're dealing with the validation viper, is that all vipers are venomous. I need us to really get this clear in our heads. All vipers are venomous. That means you don't get to see a viper and say, oh, but you know what? Their heart is in the right place. Hear me when I say this. All vipers are venomous. All of them. Somebody type in the comments, all means all. If you are on Facebook or YouTube and you can type this in the comments, all means all. All vipers are venomous, not some vipers, not a few, not a certain species. All vipers are venomous. That means whether they're deciding to bite you right now or whether they're going to save it for later, whether or not they show you their true fangs or whether they keep them in. All vipers, I thank you guys for sharing. All means all. All vipers are venomous. At some point, you can get bit. I hope y'all taking notes. At some point, you become a victim. I'm glad y'all saying y'all needed this knowledge. Hear me when I say, at some point, you can get bit. At some point, you become a victim, because all vipers are venomous. When you understand viper characteristics, the characteristics of a snake, you'll know how to prepare your emotions, your heart, your spirit, your environment. You'll know how to protect your peace. And so all vipers are venomous. Here is something that I found very interesting as I did my homework, and I really wanted to do some research on vipers because I wanted to make sure that I gave y'all this information and the relevancy of this information. So vipers are characterized by a pair of long, hollow, venom-injecting fangs. But this is what was interesting about the fact that they have fangs. The researchers said, but they're folded back in the mouth when they're not in use. I almost want to get up and run. All vipers, they're characterized by having long, hollow, venom-infecting fangs. However, they fold them back in their mouth when they're not in use. What are you trying to say, Dr. E? Sometimes you're thinking it's not a viper because you can't see its fangs, but understand that they're folded back because right now I don't need them. Right now, I'm just getting close. Right now, I'm just listening for weak and looking for weak spots. Right now, I'm just trying to discern vulnerabilities. I don't need to show my fangs yet because they're not in use. And so we're thinking, well, I don't see the fangs, so it must be good. Hear me. Vipers all have fangs, but they know how to draw those things back when they're not in use. That's why I said we have to make sure we can discern the difference. Because again, if it's sliding on the ground, if it's hissing, if it's running on its belly, I'm looking for certain characteristics that put me unaware. I might not see your fangs, but I know that they're there. So I'm going to put this in perspective when we think about validation and how it becomes a viper. But I really need you to understand the characteristics of viper so you can understand how truly vulnerable you can be to validation. So understand, this is something that I love. Thank you all in the comments that say that you're learning and this is helping. Continue to share and tag. I'm sure that this is going to help somebody. So understand this. Vipers range widely in size, but commonly they're stocky, but they have a short tail. Now, I just need to tell y'all like I'm telling y'all. We're looking at the characteristics of a natural viper so that we can understand the validation viper, how validation can show up as a viper. So in the natural, vipers range in size, but they're generally stocky with short tails, meaning they talk a lot of trap. They have a lot to say, but ain't nothing to them, not much to them. Ain't hitting on a lot of nothing, but they just look big. They look wide. They look as though they have the type of impact, but they really do not. Short tails. short. There's not much to them. They just look expansive. They look massive. And when we deal with validation, we're going to talk about how it gets us because it looks big. It looks like I need validation. I have to have somebody to tell me that I'm worth something and that I'm worthy and that I have value. And so those things, they look massive, but they don't have a lot to them. Now, this is something very important as we understand the validation viper and how that thing comes to kill us, steal, and destroy. And they take away our confidence and they put us in this people pleasing. It's a viper that's coming to put us in a place of vulnerability. Vipers can extend their fangs and bite without injecting venom. This is known as a dry bite. So what happens is it allows dry bites enable vipers to conserve their previous venom because it takes them a while to replenish, but still bite you, still have an effect on you. Man, I want y'all to hear this knowledge that I'm dropping. In the natural, vipers, they can show their fangs and they can bite without putting any venom. But see, all you see is, oh my goodness, I got bit. And so what happens with us being in a place where validation becomes a viper for us, when we are always in a place, put ourselves in a place where we want people to validate us. We want people to validate us. Please tell me I have value. Please tell me I have worth. Please tell me I'm somebody. And then they pull those fangs out and they say something to snatch our soul. We think, well, I'm dead. I must not be worth anything because they just told me I'm not the right one. I don't have enough to me. I'm not called to do that. This is not me. But listen, they call that a dry bite. And what happens is they do this thing because they want to affect us. They want to make sure that we understand, listen, you see how I just did that? It'll be worse next time. And so it puts us back in that people pleasing paralysis. Man, I just came up with that. Can I just say this again for y'all in the back? Listen, it puts us into a people-pleasing paralysis. I'm telling y'all, I'm calling it the validation viper. And so that dry bite, it scares us so much. It's almost like if you've ever seen a baby fall and the baby really didn't hurt themselves and everybody wants to reach out and grab the baby because they know if they start getting emotional, the baby will start crying. And sometimes the mom will say, shh, don't say anything, just wait. And the baby will look around for a minute. And when they notice nothing is happening, they're okay. But if somebody starts crying or looking like they're scared, the baby starts crying. That's what happens with people-pleasing paralysis. When we get bit sometimes, we automatically think, well, I'm going to die. Well, that's the end of my career. Well, nobody will deal with me now. Well, I might as well put myself out of the game because I just got bit. So I might as well lay down on, and we don't even know it was a dry bite. And so now we're paralyzed. Now we're in a place where we don't even want to keep moving. We don't even want to show show forth our confidence and show forth our purpose, what we were called to do, because now we have people pleasing paralysis. Now I've got to get back on this viper's good side. Am I helping anybody tonight? Now I'm stuck. I'm paralyzed. And now I got to please you because I don't want to get bit again. So now I'm not looking at my purpose. I'm trying to get out of paralysis. Now I'm in this place where I got to stay in your face. And I just want you to validate me again. People pleasing paralysis. And so let's keep going. Vipers have a speedy strike. They get you quick. You didn't even know it snuck up on you and snatched you. All of a sudden, you were just doing what you were called to do. And then that validation viper snuck up on you and got you real quick. And you thought, wait, I posted something, but now I got to wait. It's a certain amount of peace. It's a certain person that I want to like my post, because if I do that, it will validate me, because they snuck and they bit you real quick. You didn't even know you got bit. And so again, there's a difference between validation and affirmation. Affirmation, I'm affirming who you already are. I'm coming into agreement with what you're doing. I'm just here to motivate you and to push you towards the next level. But validation, you don't have value until I say so. No, or you don't have the value that you think you have until I attribute it to you. We have to understand vipers are quick. They speedy. They don't take their time when they want to strike you. That's why so many of us get caught off guard when we're operating in this people-pleasing paralysis, when we're constantly trying to get people to be okay with us, to tell us that we have worth. They can snatch us. They can throw us out so quick because they strike speedily. Here's something that's really interesting about a viper, and sometimes we don't understand this. Vipers look sluggish. They look sleepy. They look like they're kind of drugged, that they're not paying attention. I'm telling y'all, I did my research. And so what happens is most vipers, though, are ambush predators. I love the way that they put this in. They detect where prey is most likely to be, and they just wait. Did anybody catch that revelation? So they look like they're sluggish, but that's a ambush tactic. What happens is they want you to look like they're harmless. I'm sleepy. I'm not even paying attention to you. I'm not even worried about what you're doing. I'm out here I'm tired and overwhelmed myself. So I'm not even paying attention. This is how that validation viper gets you. And so you think, well, there's no competition here. You think, well, there's no need to earn their respect or earn their this or earn that. I'm okay. But all of a sudden, what they are doing is they are waiting. This is an ambush tactic. They're ambush predators. So they detect where prey is most likely to be and they wait. I hope this is helping somebody tonight. So they wonder, I bet you're going to be in a place where you want somebody to congratulate you. I bet you're going to be in a place where you want somebody to tell you whether or not your idea is valid or not. I bet you're going to be in a place where you're not going to move forward unless you get a certain amount of likes or shares. I bet you're going to be in a place where you're waiting for somebody to tell you if they thought that was a good idea or a bad idea. So I'm going to just lie still and wait. And so, vipers, look sluggish. They look like they're moving slow. They look like they're not paying attention. But that validation viper, it's just waiting for you to be in the right place at the right time. Now, here's something that is very interesting about vipers. This is the last thing I'm going to tell you about vipers, and then we're really going to deal with this people pleasing. And I thought that this was amazing when I really thought about what happens in our emotions, what happens in our spirits, what happens in relationships, just what happens around us when it comes to the validation viper. Now, when I read this, I said, I've got to expose. That's right, we're exposing vipers tonight. I thought to myself, when we understand the tactics of vipers, we can understand how to build a defense mechanism against them. So we have to be able to, you can't defend where you can't discern. I just dropped the mic. So let me just put that in. You can't defend where you can't discern. And so I can't defend myself against a certain thing until I can discern what it is. I can't defend myself against distractions if I can't discern that it is. I can't discern. And so we have to understand that I can't defend what I don't discern. So I don't even know I'm supposed to be fighting. I don't even know I'm supposed to be in self-preservation mode. I don't even know that we're supposed to be having a whole armor. We're supposed to be protected, but I don't even know that. So I'm not even in defense mode because I haven't been able to discern this. So this tactic is very powerful. Vipers engage in a hunting activity called prey relocation. Now, this was an eye-opener for me. This means that once they have identified their prey, they strike it and inject venom. Then they immediately release the prey so that it can't bite back. And the bitten prey wanders off, dies, and then the viper uses its sense of smell to find it and swallow it whole. I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say it 2 more times because I need you to hear. This is a viper tactic. And so I need you to understand that validation is a viper. So here is here is the biggest tactics. This is what it does. Vipers engage in a hunting activity called prey relocation. Somebody should type that in the comments, prey relocation, because we wait for stuff to happen at one time. Well, I was fine. I mean, yeah, they were talking to me some kind of way, and yeah, they were making me, but I'm good. I mean, we're fine now. See, you can't defend what you can't discern. So vipers engage in a hunting activity called prey relocation. So this means that once they have identified their prey, they strike it and go ahead and inject the venom up front, and then they release it and let it go. And you're like, oh, They let me go. I'm good. They know that that venom is working inside of you. They know that it's killing some things inside of you. They know that it's killing some dreams and killing some desires and killing some confidence and killing some purpose. And so they go ahead and turn you loose because they don't want you to fight back. Oh, no, they're not going to get into a tussle with you. They're not going to get into a word war with you. No. They strike you. They go ahead and inject the venom because I told you they strike quick. Sometimes you don't even realize you've been bitten until you're all the way down the road and you're saying, why aren't certain things working right? My mind seems to not be working right. My emotions are not working right. What's happening in me? Well, because you were struck by a viper. And it went ahead and it ejected you, and then it turned you loose because it didn't want you to fight back. And so it waits. And here you are, you just out here trying to wing it and win. So you're wandered off and you don't even know that you've been bitten and injected with venom. And it waits. Listen, that viper can wait. What we don't understand about the validation viper is that it has more patience than we usually do. Oh, vipers are very patient. They wait and they let you wander on and they wait and they're looking, I noticed she used to go live, but she's not going live as much as she used to because something is dying. They look, He used to be very proactive, but he's waiting. He's not moving as quickly and showing up like he used to. They're waiting. They're waiting for things to begin dying. They're not. I see some spiritual stagnation going on. They used to be encouraging us in the word, and they're not speaking a lot about it. So they're waiting for something to die. Oh, that confidence. They used to change their hair up and change their look up and be bold about something, but they're not talking as much and as loud. They're waiting for something to die. So we're out here thinking, oh, honey, I wrestled with that snake and I won. No, you thought you got away. That was a predatory tactic. You didn't get away. They let you go. See, I almost ran right through there. Can I just say this? This is why we have to discern the difference. You didn't get away. They let you go. And you're thinking, oh, I got out of that bad marriage. Well, did you ever go back and do an internal assessment and find out what did the venom affect? Somebody should type in the comments if you are able, what did the venom affect? Because that venom started killing some things. Yeah, you got out of the marriage, but you didn't divorce the dysfunction. That venom is still in there killing some things. Yeah, you got out of some bad situations. I got out of that toxic ministry. I got out of that toxic work environment. You didn't get away. They let you go. They said, peace, you can go. But they knew that they had injected something in you. And so now they injected in you that started having you to second guess yourself. That venom affected something. You start thinking, why am I not able to make choices? Why am I full of vacillation? Why am I such a procrastinator? Why am I being such a perfectionist? Because I'm needing someone's validation. Their validation infected you and injected you with some venom. So they let you go. They stopped fooling with you. They stopped talking to you. They unfriended you. They unfollowed you. They're not speaking in this hour. But what venom did they leave? And what did it affect? Because something is dying somewhere. All snakes, all vipers are venomous. So when we begin to think about, hey, they let me go. I'm done with that. You don't just stop right there because their tactic is they wait a little while. Can I just speak to somebody? That's why you get into these unhealthy soul ties. And then they break up. They leave you. They don't call you anymore. And you think you've done good. And you're saying, honey, I'm moving on past that. And late in the midnight hour, you get a what you doing text. That's because they're checking. They're gauging the atmosphere, your emotional atmosphere. I'm trying to see if you're dead enough in certain places yet so I can come in and swallow you whole. Ooh, who am I helping tonight? That's why. After you say, oh, I'm done with this toxic relationship. I've been dealing with somebody and this is unhealthy for me. And so we parted ways. They come back after a few months. They come back after a few weeks. You thought it was done. You said that's water under the bridge. But all of a sudden you get a call. Hey, what's going on? You crossed my mind. I'm helping somebody tonight. Just thinking about you. No, 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 not if you're a viper. That validation viper says, I'm just trying to see how much of you is dead yet. How much of you has your self-esteem gotten low enough? Has it died into a place where I can come back and snatch you back? Because that's the validation viper. Has your self-worth got to a low point? Has it got into deep? Has your faith died and faltered so much that I can strike now because you're vulnerable and my venom is doing what I need it to do? So when we think about vipers and as we're looking at this validation viper, and let me just say, because as I felt that for somebody, for some of you all, I don't know if you all were aware, I just actually did a live training where I dealt with untethered, unhealthy soul ties and things that we're connected to that drain us. You can go visit my institute, purposepositioning.com, and you can go back and enroll in that course because it's called Untethered. It was the get free formula, because you can get free and get released from that stuff. But I want you to understand that these validation vipers, they come to steal, they come to take things away from us. So how do they show up? Because validation, it shows up in I call it purpose prostitution, because that's what they're coming to do. They're coming to pollute and prostitute our purpose. But it shows up, validation viper shows up when we have these approval, attention, and accepting places in us where we're thinking to ourselves, these are these approval, attention seeking behaviors, these acceptance seeking behaviors. That's how you know that you were bit by a validation viper. So this is how you know if you've been bit by a validation viper, because I want to make sure that you're able to come out of this thing. I want to make sure that you're able to get free. Let me inject something that can bring you some life this time. And some of you guys, I see some of you all on there that attended the webinar that said it was amazing. Thank you all so much, because we got free, we got untethered. And you can definitely go to my institute, www.purposepositioning.com, and go back and register for that course. And for some of you all that are watching, as I begin in a moment to tell you how to be able to determine whether you were bit by the viper validation, the validation viper, and whether or not you're dealing with the pain of people pleasing. I want you to know that I have an amazing course called the confidence course. And that confidence course is I think it's almost 14 modules. It has challenges in them, but there it talks to you about how to gain your confidence back. Because when you've been bit by a viper, especially the validation viper, and you've been in a place of people pleasing for so many years of your life, you've got to build and gain your confidence back. And so I take you through an immense training for how to build your confidence, how to get your power back, how to override fear. And then at the end of it, I give you a challenge. For each one of the courses, you get a challenge that you can, I actually do the sample myself and then show you. But it's called the confidence course, and it is available on www.purposepositioning.com. It's an amazing course that you can take that will really help you get your confidence back, so that you can defeat the effects of the validation viper. So how do you know whether or not you were bit by the validation viper? Well, it shows up in a different, a certain amount of ways. Now, I don't mind if you tell on yourself in the comments section. If you are on Clubhouse, you can tell on yourself and inbox me on Instagram. But how do you tell if you've been bit? And you can put in the comments, me, if it was you. So you've been bit by the validation viper if you're always changing or softening your position because somebody else appears to disapprove. In other words, you can't express yourself freely because it affects your speaking confidence. So you'll say something and then somebody looks at you like, I'm not validating that. And all of a sudden you'll try to change your position or soften it, or you'll be like, well, I mean, it's not everybody. Thank you guys for telling the truth in the comment section. So when you change it, this is how you tell if you've been bit by the validation viper. So another thing another way to tell if you've been bit, and this is a big one, if you take disagreement personally. personally. You're too emotionally invested into the outcome. So there's a disagreement, and somebody had one opinion, and disagree simply means on a certain issue we're not on the same page. We're not going to die. It's okay. I just see it this way. You see it another way, but you take it personally. That's because you are too emotionally invested into that outcome, and you're just thinking, oh my God, you disagree with me. You don't like, that means I'm not, there's something wrong with me, or it's me. You've been bit by the validation viper. Next, how can you tell if you've been bit by the validation viper? When you pay insincere compliments because you want to gain approval. Ouch. So, and we don't want to admit this one now, manipulation, because it affects your authenticity. That's what happens when you say something to somebody, say something nice. We really don't care what you're saying to, but you want them to say something back to you nice because you've been bit by the validation viper. And so you need to be validated. So you're thinking, let me set my compliment up because I see that it's not going to roll off their tongue. So let me set this up so they can say something nice back to me. The validation viper. This is how we understand whether or not we've been bit by the validation viper. Here's another one. Feeling worried, upset, or even insulted when someone disagrees with you. I mean, you got a whole attitude, or you're just worried, like, oh my goodness, I can't even stand. Like, it affects your ability to stand firm on your decisions. You're in a place where you're just like either insulted, or you're just upset, or you're worried because somebody else they disagreed. So you're not just taking it personally, but you're worried about it. It has upset you. You can't think. You're sitting, you're just thinking, oh my goodness, what just happened? I don't understand. Why wouldn't they? That's because the validation viper struck. Here's another thing. You've been bit by the validation viper when you express agreement when you really don't agree. Either verbally or non-verbally. You're just kind of shaking your head. Yep. When you know you don't agree, or you just say, oh, okay, then. Okay. You don't agree with it. I call that contrived compliance. Contrived compliance, because you are trying to appear as though everything is okay and that you guys are in agreement, because the validation viper bit you, and you don't want to cause any type of disruption, or you're afraid of their response, or even perhaps their rebuttal. And so contrived compliance is when you express agreement by shaking your head or saying or nodding when you really don't agree. I see y'all in the comments. I appreciate you guys, and I'm grateful that this is helping. How can you tell you've been bit by the viper that I call validation? When you do something you don't want to do because you're afraid of saying no. The superhero syndrome. That's that self-imposed obligation. You do something, you just do it anyway. You know what? I don't want to hear their mouth. I'm just going to do it. I see you guys in the comments. Yeah, you've been bit. You're just saying, I don't even want to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. Why? Because that's that validation. That venom is working itself somewhere in our head. We think, because if I say no, the world's going to come to an end. Because if I say no, you don't understand what's going to happen. No, you don't understand what's not going to happen. The world is not going to end. They're going to hear your no and have to deal with it. That's their responsibility on how they choose to deal with it. But we make it so. Remember earlier when I was giving you the characteristics of a viper, and I said that they appear really wide and really big, but they really have short tails? We think that the effects of saying no and turning things down when we don't want to do, we think that, oh my God, it's so massive, but no, it's a short tail. They'll get over it. They'll stop speaking for a while, but it'll be fine. That's how you begin to take the sting out of the validation viper. I'm going to give you guys a couple more. I want it to be done in an hour, so I don't want to hold you too long, but I really hope that this is helping you. So here's something else. Spreading bad news or gossip for attention and relevance, because you want to bond over brokenness instead of connecting from cultivation. Now, everybody won't admit to that. Maybe you know some people who have been bit by the viper because you just, hey, did y'all know that such and such? What? Because you know people have itching ears. And so spreading bad news and or gossip, because that's attention. That's somebody else saying, wow. See, because validation says, see, y'all are valuing what I have to say, even though we're bonding over brokenness, because it's an attention getter. We know that it's going to make people listen. That's a sign that you've been bit by the validation viper. Failing to cope with criticism. Just, you don't know how to take it. It's somebody says, hey, but I didn't like that. I thought you should have did that. Or I didn't like that color. You should have, maybe. And you just think, oh my goodness, everybody hates me. The world is against me. This is why I didn't want to do it anyway. See, I knew one person had one thing to say. And because you have no valid coping mechanisms, all of a sudden you're just in a tailspin, just don't know how to cope with criticism. You have now taken that and made it a sorrow of your soul, when it's really not that big of a deal. Because sometimes the criticism actually has validity. And you think, I could just do that. But when you've been bit by the validation viper, you just, all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I told you, it puts you in a place of people pleasing paralysis. Here's something: pretending to be knowledgeable or an authority on a subject because you're afraid to admit that there's something you don't know. I call that fake it till you fried it. Yeah. No, there's no fake it till you make it. Fake it till you fried it. Pretending to be knowledgeable or an authority on something because you're afraid to admit that you just don't know it. Can I tell you something? Nobody actually expects you to know everything. Nobody actually expects you to know everything. But when you've been bitten by the validation viper, you think you have to know it all, or people are not going to show you any, they're not going to give you any validation. They're going to say, oh, you don't mean it. I don't need you. No, you can just say, hey, that's not my lane of genius. That's not my area of expertise. Let me find you someone else who could perhaps help you. That validation viper is something else. I'm going to give you two more and then I'm going to be done. So here's one that's huge. Asking for permission when it's not required. Asking for permission when it's not required. Do y'all think I can? I mean, do you want to? Just asking for permission. Or always apologizing on the other side of it. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh, sorry. I just needed to. Oh, I'm sorry. Either always asking for permission or always apologizing. That's the effects of the validation viper. That's that venom coming in and killing confidence and causing you to feel as though you're not valid and valuable in your own decisions. And so always apologizing, always asking for permission consistently. And you're like, hey, you didn't have to apologize for that. That wasn't your fault, or nobody took it that personally. And then last but not least, understand that any behavior that is contrary to your identity and purpose, or that conflicts with your core beliefs, is generally done to gain the approval of somebody else. If you know that's not you, that's not you. You don't talk like that. You don't wear that. That's not the way you want to be presented. That's not you. You've been bitten by the validation viper. So how do you draw out the venom? I hope I've helped y'all tonight, because we've exposed the viper, of the validation viper. I've showed you how to tell if you've been bit, and now how do we draw that venom out so that we can be whole, right? I always tell everybody that knows me, honor your emotions, but arrest your actions. Don't let your feelings make you act like a fool. I've been seeing this so much, especially lately. Let me help y'all. If you've been bit by the validation viper, and you've went through and you've identified yourself with some of the things that I talked about tonight, and you recognize, yeah, I've been bit by this validation viper. I need to know, how do I get that? How do I, get that, draw that venom out of me? Honor your emotions because your emotions are valid. They belong to you, but arrest your actions. Don't let your feelings make you act like a fool. When you are in a place, and this might pinch you, but it's going to push you into your purpose, where you are so overtaken by somebody else's opinion and perspective and perception of you, to the place where you will change who you are, and you to the place where usually you like to comment on posts and you do certain things, and you just completely go to a shutdown. Arrest those actions. Don't let your feelings make you act like a fool. Sometimes the only reason that you act like a fool is because you've been bit by this validation viper. So now here you are calling folks and sending folks text messages and putting posts on social media because you want that person to know they hurt your feelings and this is how they made you feel, or you're gonna make a big scene about unfollowing and unfriending, or you're gonna shut down certain things. Listen, sweethearts, let me help you. That just means you've been bit by the validation viper. Honor your emotions. It's okay to feel how you're going to feel. If you get bit, you should feel some kind of way, but arrest your actions. Don't let your feelings make you act like a fool. You can't allow them to see that, you know what? You just bit me, and I want you to see that something in me is dying. My confidence is dying. My self-worth is dying. My self-esteem is, everything is, I'm just stressed out, and you're going to feel all of this. Arrest those actions. Next, find a responsible way to release. Now, you've got to release the venom on the inside of you, but find a responsible way to release. In my mentorship and my coaching and the people that are connected to me, I always give people a safe place that they can share. And I teach people a responsible way to release, because there is a way to release it. It's not in clapping back. I've been saying this for a while. I don't use my hands to clap back. I could, but I'm too busy using them to build something. So no, I'm going to find a responsible way to release. If I'm dealing with something, I find a responsible way to release it by saying things like, you know what, let me go live and actually do a training about this. Let me do a webinar so I can teach people something. Let me create some kind of safe place so people can find a way. Let me give them a responsible way to release. Sometimes you can write it in a journal. Sometimes you can call a one trusted friend that doesn't know any of your other friends, so that they can't go back and inject it back into that toxic environment. Sometimes you got to do what that old song says. Oh, what peace we often forfeit, and oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Sometimes the responsible way to release it is to pray about it. Trace the tree and then remove the root. Find out where this started. Because a lot of the times, every viper has an origin, right? There's a birthing place. Find out when this constant unhealthy need was birthed in you. Trace the tree and then remove that root, whether you do it through therapy, whether you do it through coaching, whether you do it through mentorship. Find a way to trace that tree so that you can remove the root. Last two ways: set boundaries. Listen. One of the reasons why I try to make a point of not getting bit by snakes is because I have boundaries. There are gates. There are certain territories and places that I'm encased in. Because sad to say, a lot of the times we get bit by the things that are closest to our emotional, mental, spiritual environment. So learn how to set some boundaries. Understand your triggers. Shift your environment if you need to. Know when to delegate. Hey, let me let somebody else do that because that's going to trigger me. Get comfortable saying no. And last but least, change your level by changing your lifestyle, your language, your location, your literature, and your leverage. So let me say this again. Change your level. See, what we understand about vipers is that they have to be on the ground. They have to be close to the ground. They have to start on the ground, and then they might, you don't see them jumping out of trees and up on cliffs. They stay low to the ground, which means that somewhere you've got to elevate. Somewhere you've got to go through a process of evolution, of elevation. So change your level, and you do that by changing your lifestyle. Maybe your lifestyle is too congruent to snakes. It's too close to people who want you to be validated by them. Change your language. Maybe I'm speaking lower level language. Maybe I'm sounding needy. I'm sounding emotionally incapacitated, and so because we attract what we articulate. So maybe I'm articulating something that's attracting this validation viper. Change your location. Sometimes you've got to remove yourself from certain circles. Leaving certain circles will break certain cycles. Whew, I'm going to say this for the people in the back. Leaving certain circles will break certain cycles. One more time. Leaving certain circles will break certain cycles. So change your level by changing your location. Change your level by changing your literature. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you inputting? Because remember how I said you have to discern first. You have to discern before you can disassociate. Man, that was a good one. You've got to discern before you can disassociate. I didn't know I was dealing with vipers. So now that I've discerned it, now I can disassociate myself from that cycle. And then change your level by changing your leverage. Your leverage means the power or your ability to act or influence people, events, decisions. When you start operating in your premium purpose, when you start operating in your assignment, your unique assignment, when you get into alignment with your assignment, you're going to change your level. So how do you extract the venom from this validation viper? You change your level by changing your lifestyle, your language, your location, your literature, and your leverage. Yeah, I'm the queen of alliteration, Dr. E. Thank you guys that participated tonight in this, I don't know what I want to call it, this pop-up presentation, because I want us to be aware of this viper, this validation viper that seeks to get us. Those of you